I don't know if this is absolutely terrifying or if it's just laughable in its pure predictability. The big brains over at CNN, the Joe Rogan is not a doctor, but neither are we crowd, is now saying, of course you're going to need a fourth dose. Obviously, the fall, the winter's going to roll around once again, and you are going to keel over and die if you don't do exactly as we say. Now, we know that the first 3 shots were perfect. They were absolutely flawless, worked like a charm, but somehow you still managed to come down with a case of Rona. And just know that you would have died if you didn't get those first 3 shots. And you are most definitely gonna die if you don't get this fourth or fifth or sixth or whatever it is. You're probably gonna need it at least once or twice a year, or maybe even once or twice a month, or maybe once or twice a week. Who knows? Science is such a crazy thing. We never know exactly where it's gonna lead us. So let's see what this CNN news talker guy has to say about the fourth vaccine dose and why you are most likely gonna die if you do not get one.
This morning, brand new information on what the FDA might recommend, or when they might recommend a fourth dose of the COVID vaccine. Look to the fall.
Okay, so right off the bat, he tells you it's not might, it's not if, but when the CDC or the FDA or whatever it is going to come down and tell you that you need to get another one. Otherwise, you are putting everybody in danger.
CNN's Jacqueline Howard joins me now with the latest on this. Why fall, and when will we know for sure?
Well, John, it depends on 2 factors. The FDA is looking at, 1, waning immunity, so we could see immunity wane by the fall, and then number 2.
Oh, waning immunity. So what you're saying is it doesn't work like you said it was going to work, because I remember when this came out and they said that, well, you don't have to worry about Rona if you go ahead and get the shot. But now they're saying, well, the immunity may or may not work for only a couple of months. Now, natural immunity, that doesn't work at all. It's not even a real thing. So I'm already banned from YouTube.
2, the emergence of any new variants. Could we see a new variant emerge by this fall? And those are the 2 factors that the FDA is continually monitoring, taking a close look at to determine if or when we might need this extra boost. But it was actually FDA official Dr. Peter Marks who's spoken publicly about this possible fall timeline.
Okay, so there's going to be more, or there might be more variants. We just don't know, but the FDA is watching it very closely. I'm sure they have no stake in wanting to pump people full of more pharmaceuticals. This is just all out of the goodness of their heart that another variant might arise, and you will most likely need a fourth dose of this boost.
FDA told me this, quote, Dr. Marks has noted publicly that there is still much uncertainty as to how the pandemic may further evolve. He did note that it is possible that a fourth dose might be recommended as we move into fall. And if that is in fact the case, John, the rollout of this extra boost will likely mirror what we saw this past fall when we saw the rollout of the initial boosters. Pharmacies will likely play a big role. It could be a phased rollout with.
Oh, yeah, the pharmacies are going to play a big role. We're going to see it just like we saw last fall. I just can't wait. It's going to be such an amazing rollout. She's talking about it like it's some sort of blockbuster movie. This is creepy as hell.
Older adults and the most vulnerable groups first being eligible. So that's what we can expect to see possibly. And
yeah. Remember when the older adults and the most vulnerable people were first in line for the shots, and then it turned out that a lot of people didn't actually want it. So you started offering cheeseburgers and donuts and beers and all this stuff. And then you just said, well, fine, you don't want it and you can't go to work anymore. But now we're doing it all over again.
We can expect to hear more closer to fall. And that's also when we know, John, that the coronavirus does circulate more in the winter and fall.
Oh, the coronavirus circulates more in the winter and fall, kind of like a seasonal flu?
Months. We have seen somewhat of this seasonal pattern. So that's also reason for this possible timeline. But for now, the CDC only recommends extra boosters for certain immunocompromised people. And this conversation will continue in the coming months.
Yeah,
John?
If they do recommend it by the fall, it would end up being not unlike the flu shot, something you maybe get.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the shot could be not unlike the flu shot, but the virus itself is nothing like the flu. It's completely different, and you will be banned from YouTube once again if you even think the idea that they might be fairly similar, and the Rona is just not this big scary thing that we all have to hide under the bed forever. But I will move on.
Exactly.
Every year about that time, it could become a regular thing. Jacqueline Howard, thank you so much.
Here in the U.S., we're seeing a very steep decline in cases and hospitalizations as the Omicron variant wanes.
Oh, look at that. Look at this infographic. Look at that steep decline. I mean, can you believe it? Now that the midterms are coming around, everything's getting a little bit better. And we can all thank, I guess, Joe Biden and the Democratic Party for protecting us and loving us and giving us all of these shots and taking away our jobs and labeling us terrorists. Without any of that, we wouldn't have been able to see this decline in cases.
I mean, just look at this graphic right here. But you think that these numbers don't give us a complete picture. Why is that?
Well, first of all, it's great news that cases are dropping very rapidly in the United States. We declined well over 80% from our peak daily case rates.
Okay, so yeah, this is good news, but obviously he doesn't really mean that. He wants to see the numbers pumped up because he's going to get a check from all this stuff. And by the way, he sort of looks like he's just waiting for the bag of money to be dropped at his feet. Like, all right, let's do the news hit. I'll say whatever I need to say. Just make sure that the check clears. You know, that's what this guy looks like.
At the beginning of January. But we were at such a massive level. We're still at a fairly high level. About 100,000 people a day are testing positive. Now, mind you, that's with reported tests. Many people now test positive with at-home tests, which are not, reported to public.
Oh, can you imagine that people are testing at home by themselves and they're not reporting it to the government, which is obviously a very silly thing. You shouldn't be testing yourself at all, especially if you don't feel sick. But this guy seems fairly offended that every single person is not, reporting their Rona test results to the government. So we may never know. I think everybody in the country has it, and we're never going to get back to normal. Just make sure that you get a jab once or twice a week, bro. That's the only way that this is going to go away, and then we can finally get back to normal, or the new normal, I suppose.
Health databases. So the number is almost certainly much larger than that. So there's still a lot of virus around. If you look at the last time,
there's still a lot of virus around. That doesn't even mean anything. It's like Fauci with the droplets. Like, we're going to beat, that's what de Blasio used to say, we're going to beat this back. It doesn't make any sense. These people are grasping onto the last straw of power to tell you that, all right, we're going to give this one last college try to make sure that we can squeeze all the milk out of this pharmaceutical teat.
We sort of claimed victory over this virus, which was the beginning of last summer. If you look at the end of June, we had dropped to as low as 7,000 cases per day. So we're about 13, 14 times higher than that now, which is...
Yes, but the cases are are much less severe, I should say. Now, me personally, I'm not buying into any of this. I think it's all a media manipulation and a mind game. Of course, if you think you're sick, you're going to be sick. I haven't been sick since I had a hangover in college, so I'm not worried about any of this. But it's hilarious that this guy is like, well, these numbers, everybody's not reporting them to the government, and it might be way more. It's just like, just make sure that it's not over yet. You're going to die. We need more shots, and just... Leave my bag of money right over there.
The major reason I think there's still too much virus around, a little bit too early to claim victory. And
it's too early to claim victory. Now, we are entering year 3 of this, and they still it's too early to say. I mean, when can you say? Can it wait until year 5, year 10, year 12, and then we can finally say, all right, well, I guess the good folks over at Pfizer have collected enough cash, and we can let this thing go by the wayside.
And too early to drop our mitigation efforts.
Too early to drop our mitigation efforts. Bro, you've been torturing people for the last 2 years. Oh, you can take the mask off if you get the shot. Actually, that was wrong. You can't do that. Put the mask back on. Put 2 masks on, but not that mask. You need this special kind of mask that costs a little more, and nobody can really find it, but that's the only way that we're going to save your life. This is absolute nonsense. This is worse than a giant big bowl of Fauci word salad. It doesn't make any sense, and that's why this guy looks so sloppy, because he's just waiting for the paycheck.
If we take a look at Israel, they started giving 4th doses of the COVID vaccine in December for patients over 60. Yeah. So we're starting to get to that point here in the U.S. I mean, how soon do you think that the FDA and the CDC could greenlight a 4th dose?
It's a very interesting question. I think they're looking at how rapidly cases are dropping in the United States. but they're also
Yeah, cases are dropping, but make sure that everybody gets these take-home tests so we can just sort of pump the numbers up and make sure that we're still in an emergency and everybody still needs to go get this fourth shot, which will eventually lead to a fifth, sixth, and so on and so forth. This is insane.
following how rapidly protection from our booster doses is dropping in the United States. You know that a booster.
And just really quick, it's hilarious to me that they will 100% acknowledge the idea that the booster or the shots overall wane in protectiveness. They wane in efficacy, I suppose. I'm not really sure, but over time they get less potent, right? But they will not admit that natural immunity is even a thing.
Significantly increases the effectiveness of these vaccines, both in terms of preventing infection and preventing serious illness like hospitalization or death. But that additional benefit also starts to wane after 4 to 5 months. And we started boosting people.
Okay, so 4 to 5 months, just like I said, you are going to need this thing once or twice a year. And just wait until they ramp it up, and you're going to need it once every month. And then you're going to need it twice every month. And then it's going to go to a weekly thing. This is absolutely insane. And if you think I'm crazy, think about all of the people that literally predicted this exact thing. They called people conspiracy theorists. And here we are. We are living it, right? Because what's the old saying? The difference between the truth and a conspiracy is 8 to 12 months, I guess.
In September. So many people, particularly the earliest groups that we boosted, which included the elderly, are now going to start to see some waning effectiveness. So the CDC and FDA are going to have to balance the benefit to an additional fourth dose, which we do think is safe.
Of course, we're going to balance the benefit to a fourth dose. Of course it's safe. He has to just throw that in there. These people are absolute farm mafia puppets, and it's amazing to me that anybody can look at this and say, yeah, I think they're really honest. They're looking out for my best interests. It's absolutely laughable.
With the necessity to do that, given the fact that cases are dropping so quickly in the United States, I think it's very reasonable to assume that at some point everyone is going to be redosed with another dose of this vaccine. And whether that comes late in the spring or early summer or the beginning of the fall, I think it's safe to assume that we're not done vaccinating for this virus.
Oh, of course, we are not done vaccinating for this virus. Did we really expect this guy to say anything different? There's never going to come a point in time where they're like, you know what? We did it. We're over the hump. It's all over. Go back to normal. It's not going to happen, because the normal for them is them controlling every single thing you do, all the way down to where you can eat, where you can work out, and how many shots you have to get every single year.